Our business correspondent Glen Goodman outside the Chancellor's home in Downing Street. Glen.
Well, every year on Budget Day, the Chancellor comes out of that door there and waves his little red box around. But what's happening on Wednesday will make the budget seem like small change.
Glen Goodman is in Westminster for us this morning. Glen.
Well, but as a result of all of these changes, a lot of people on lower incomes will find themselves a bit better off. Got a number of speakers who are going to be sitting on my panel who are from different areas and are able to advise, hopefully, on the different ways that people can get involved and, crucially, the different ways that people can make money out of it. Because, I've got to be honest here, that's kind of my angle. My name's Glen Goodman. I'm a former ITV business correspondent, and I gave up being an ITV business correspondent because I was also in my spare time a trader in stocks and futures, and I wanted to concentrate on that full time, so gave it all up, gave up the TV and concentrated on that. And then, of course, crypto came along. And for someone who's been trading now for more than 15 years, that was pretty much a godsend, because crypto, I find, is wonderful to trade. If you've ever traded currencies or stocks or futures, trading on cryptocurrency exchanges has, in the past few years, been insanely profitable. And we're not just talking about Bitcoin or Ethereum or some of those obvious ones, but about many, many dozens of other cryptos that I've traded in and invested in too. So, just a little bit more of my background. I got a Facebook page going. I called it The Shares Guy. I started making videos talking about crypto trading and that kind of thing. And of course, like all things crypto, last year it went crazy. So I got up to 250,000 followers. And now I've just got a publishing deal to write the first major hardback book about how to trade cryptocurrency. So watch out for that. I don't know what it's going to be called yet. Probably How to Trade Cryptocurrency. Seems to be a popular title. I don't know. Maybe something a bit more creative if I can think of something. I wanted to call it the crypto maze, like the crystal maze, you know, but no, you see, the reaction is muted. No, all right, I'll stick to How to Trade Cryptocurrencies and does what it says on the tin. All right, anyway, hooray, we have our panel all here with us. Hello, panel. Could you squidge up a bit so I can sit in the middle?
Yeah.
Thanks. Not because I think I'm more important or anything, just, it's just for logistics reasons. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to introduce David Cheetham, who you can see just there, the man in the suit and tie. Why is he wearing a suit and tie? Because he works for a trading platform. It's XTB. It's one of the bigger ones. You might have already heard of it. They provide CFDs, contracts for difference, which basically allow you to bet on the price movements in cryptocurrencies rather than actually buying the cryptocurrencies themselves. So in a sense, it's safer. Well, they are regulated in the UK, so in that sense, it's safer. So you're in less danger of losing your money. You can't be hacked and somebody steal your cryptocurrencies. You don't have to keep your cryptocurrencies on a piece of hardware because you don't actually own them. You're just betting on the movements in the prices, either up or indeed down, which could have been quite profitable for some people in the recent past, for obvious reasons. So he'll tell you more about that when I ask him some questions. Also with us, we have George McDonough, who is the CEO of KR1. You might have seen the KR1 stage, which I've been hosting over round the back. Go there later on. I'm going to be talking about the nuts and bolts of crypto investing at around about 2:40, 3 o'clock. I don't know, check the schedule. Somewhere around that time, I'm going to be looking at the very nuts and bolts of how to trade in crypto. And George, whose stage that is, runs one of the first ever crypto funds, focuses on the token economy, seed funding, early stage blockchain projects and ICOs. And this is actually a tradable fund. So if you have stocks and shares, if you've got just a normal stock brokerage account in the UK, you can actually buy shares in his fund, which then tracks the prices of various early stage cryptos that he has invested in. Also, we have Gilad Waltzevich, who is sitting over there, who is from Credium. And Credium is basically focused on, let me get this right, the credit economy, particularly for smaller firms, building some infrastructure that is based on blockchain that smaller firms can use to buy and sell credit-related products, so basically debt, buying and selling debt. Is that right?
Yeah, except for we're not actually focused on smaller firms. We're actually talking to some of the biggest qualified institutional buyers in the US, and we're particularly driving efficiencies to the secondary credit platforms. So currently in the US alone, there's about $18 trillion of outstanding debt that is trading hands based on technologies and processes of about 30 or 50 years ago. Literally loan tapes, CSV files, fax machines, analysts, a lot of intermediaries in the middle, and we're building a shared credit ledger allowing instantaneous exchanges of credit assets.
Okay, well there you have it. And sorry to say you only deal with small.
No problem at all. We're open for everyone. We're dealing with small and big as one.
And big.
We're creating a standard, basically. Yeah.
Okay. We'll find out more about that a little bit later on. We've still got more, so we've got so many speakers. Josh Redette, Easy Crypto Hunter.
Easy Crypto Hunter.
This guy will help you mine your cryptocurrencies if you're into that kind of thing. I've never actually mined myself, though I met a guy, he looked homeless, to be honest. This guy at a blockchain conference in Amsterdam just a few weeks ago. He's like a big lumbering guy who's like, oh. And I said, well, what are you doing here then, as we're chatting? And he's like, oh, I just go to conferences. Well, what are you involved in? No, nothing really. It was like, well, why are you here? And his friend, who ran a big blockchain company, just went, he was mining Bitcoin when it was like 3 cents. Like, well, how much Bitcoin did you mine? Like a ton of Bitcoin. So that's it. Now he just doesn't wash his clothes, wanders about the world, going to conferences, never has to do anything again. So, it's a way of investing a much smaller amount of money than you might otherwise and being able to borrow a lot of money from the trading platform itself. Say you put in £2,000 and then you borrow, if it's times 5 leverage, you would borrow £10,000 or 8,000?
Yeah, it'd be 5 to 1.
Yeah, 5 to 1. So you'd borrow so that your entire size of bet was £10,000, including your own 2,000 and 8,000 that you've borrowed from the exchange. This means that you're buying £10,000 of Bitcoin, so every time the price doubles, then suddenly you've got another £10,000, even though you were only betting with £2,000 of your own money. But likewise, if you're betting at that size, Bitcoin only needs to go down by 20%, and you've lost your entire £2,000. That's it, you're wiped out, your account is gone. So it is really only recommended for more experienced traders. That used to be the case, but a lot of the Bitcoin exchanges that are not regulated in the UK in particular, they don't check whether the people who are applying to them have got experience in trading, which you are by law expected to do.
Yeah, there's fairly stringent criteria to prove that you have some knowledge of the products. And we have a big focus on education. We have, in our Canary Wharf offices, we invite clients in all the time with beginners courses where you talk from the very basics about trading. And especially if you trade on leverage, I think leverage is a great tool and it can magnify your profits if you're used correctly. But if you're used incorrectly, like you say, you can magnify your losses. So you need to be careful, you need to be aware of the risks. And one thing, if you are trading on leverage, I'd always highly recommend having a stop loss. So a stop loss is basically if the market goes so far against you, you cut your loss and you get out and you look for another trade. A buy and hold long-term strategy with leverage can be quite damaging, I think. Just as a quick example, when you're talking about the sort of gains you could see in the space of just over a week before Christmas, we saw Ripple go from around 25 cents to above $2.50, so a tenfold increase. If you're using 20 times leverage on that, that's a 200 times gain. So you're having, if you maxed out your account, you'd be 200 times up in the space of just over a week. So it's very, very high leverage, which is why we took the decision to rein it in a little bit and make it a little bit more...
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And if you go to the nuts and bolts of crypto investing talk that I'm doing on the KR1 stage later on in the afternoon, I'll be talking about how I used that kind of leverage on platforms to make very large profits last year off relatively small investments, and I'll be explaining why, because I was using platforms that aren't regulated in the UK that allowed you to trade dozens and dozens of cryptocurrencies. Frankly, all those kind of platforms are dodgy. You don't know if they're going to go bust, and if they do go bust, you're not going to get your money back because they're based in whatever country. So I found leverage a very very useful tool because it meant I could just put in a relatively small amount of my own money and then borrow large amounts of money from that platform in order to trade big, make big profits, and then I can take those profits out of the platform, which is what I did, and put them in the safety of my bank account back in Britain. So anyway, I'll explain more about that this afternoon if you're interested in that kind of crazy trading world, which is a world away from the sensible stuff that STB encouraged.